Welcome back, my friends. Welcome to another lovely math video. Everyone's excited for finals. We're going to be going over some of what we've been studying, and hope you enjoy. First of all, it says it's the end of the semester, and school and clubs are recording their profits. That's nice. I'm happy for them. Science Club started out with $10, so I'm going to just underline started out with $10. It has increased its balance by an average of $20 per week. And I want you to notice that the starting is underlined with red. And what I'm going to tell you is that starting, anything like that, starting value, that's going to be your y-intercept. And in terms of y equals mx plus b, it's the value that you put in for b. And the next thing I'm going to show you is slope. Whoops, I meant to make that red. What happened? Here, this is now blue. No, not that part. Slope. I'll have to change it. Slope. Per equals slope, and that is m for your equation. So when it says $10 per week, right here, 10 per, that's going to be the slope of the second one, the math club. And they start out with 40. So that's going to be their B value. So what I'm trying to say is that for the science club, their B is 10. And then for their rate, their M, that equals 20. And then for the math club, they start out with 40, and they have $10 per week. And notice, please, that the per is the slope. Okay, so if we have an equation, so they want a linear equation for each of these. So a linear equation would be y equals mx plus b. And we're just going to replace some of these letters with what we got. So for example, m, for this one here, we know that's 20. So I'm going to write in 20. B, we know is 10. So I'm going to add a 10. Over on the next equation, again, we have y equals mx plus b. And here we have 10 for the slope. So I'm going to replace this m with 10. And then for the b, we know that that's 40. And that's that. And so now I have my equations. That means I'm done with number one. I can give it a nice little box so I know what I'm looking at. And there we go. All right. And now they want us to graph this. So let's have a look at the graph. Let me try to zoom properly so I can see it all. Maybe I can zoom in one more. Hopefully that'll work out. Okay, sounds good. All right, let's have a look at this graph. Let's see if we can label this. Weeks would be down here, right? Isn't this the number of weeks? Okay, so it says label, right? What X and Y represent. And so this we'll just call money. Just put a little dollar sign so that we know that the y-axis is the dollar sign. And now we have to graph the line. So how do we do that? Well, we start with, in the science club, so I'm going to just make this purple so you know what I'm talking about. The science club, they start out with $10. So I'm going to put a little dot down here at 10. And their slope is 20. That means that each time you go over 1, I'm sorry, that didn't work out well. Let's do that again. Okay, that means after 1 week, they're going to have $30. Think about that. Okay, they started out with 10, and then they get $20 per week. Don't they start with 10, and then the next week they have 30, and then 50, and then 70, and then 90, and so on and so forth? So let's let's plot that. See if we can plot that. So 10 after 1 week, make sure you can see that, they have 30. And then they have 50 after 2 weeks. And after 3 weeks, they have 70. And then 90. And then it doesn't fit on the chart anymore. So that means we're good. The math club, this one right here, right? They start with 40. So if they start with 40, then we're going to put a little dot right here. And then remember, they get $10 per week. So after 1 week, they'll have 50. And then they'll have 60. And then they'll have 70. And then they'll have 80. Now, you could just draw the line, but I think a lot of you, if you draw the line, I would hope it would work out for you. Just once you have the first 2 points, if you know they're accurate, then you can just connect the dots and use a ruler. And just connect those, and then you're done. And we have this here. And there we go with that. Alrighty. Alright, and now we have some more questions. It says, what week do the clubs have the same balance? Well, what week do they have the same balance? Well, do you see how in week 3 they're the same? So I'm just going to put 3 as my answer. And how much money do they have? Well, they have, if you go up here, right, to the point where they meet, if you go here to the left, you see that they have $70. And that is the answer. And I believe that's it. We're done with that. Okay, number 4. Match the following situations in appropriate association type. Draw a line deposit to appropriate answer. The color of a student's shoes and their family size. Does the color of their shoe have anything to do with their family size? No. That has nothing to do with that. So that we would call no association. What about the amount of AC you use and the cost of the power bill? Well, don't you have to pay more money if you use the AC more? So as the use of AC goes up, the power bill goes up. So that's a positive association because if one goes up, the other one goes up. What about the amount of clothing you wear and the temperature? Well, the higher the temperature, the less clothing you wear, which was nice because we have 106 degrees tomorrow. So I'm sure you're all aware of that. And then, but if it's really cold, then you wear more layers. Like when we go to the coast and it's like 60 degrees in the summer, we wear more layers. We wear a hoodie and we wear, more things. So there's an inverse relationship. We call that a negative association. And then that's good for that. And now, moving on. Again, if I'm going too fast, just pause the video and try to do it yourself. So let's try number 5. All right, I hope that was enough time for you to try that one. Let's draw that line. And let's try to do that here. And I think that's about right, don't you think? Something like that. I think that's close enough. Maybe just a little bit. Like that. I don't know. That's good enough. Okay, so there's my line of best fit. And they want to know how much did they sell on a day that had a high of 40 degrees. Well, where's degrees? Look at the label. Oh, degrees is down here. Okay, so 40 degrees is what they're looking at. So we're just going to go up to the line, and where we hit, that's when we go to the left. So we hit about right here, and we end up at 30. And that means the answer is 30. And that's it. That's all it is. Once you have the line of best fit, it's pretty simple. Okay, and now, number 6. Why don't you try that? Okay, so you start with the y-intercept, which is -4. And I'll give that a little label here. Let's do that, y-intercept. And that's nice. And then I am going to do Once I have the y-intercept, I'm going to do the slope. So I have the rise, and then I have the run. Okay, so here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that b equals -4, and m is the rise and the run, right? So the rise here is 2, and I'll call that rise. And the run here is 3. Okay, so run equals 3. And so that means that m, which is rise over run, that means m is 2 over 3. And so I can use that to make the equation of the line. So y equals mx plus b. M is going to be 2/3. And don't forget the x, a lot of people do. Plus b is going to be -4. And that is it. That's all I need. That is the equation. And now let's try number 7. Please pause the video or just wait a few seconds. And we're going to go over the answers. Try number 7 on your own. Hopefully you have the formula. Thank you. And we're back. Let's see if you remember the formula. So it goes A equals P, which is the principal, times 1 plus R divided by N, all to the power of T times N. Okay, and so once we have that, let's talk about what each of these are. So we have P. Let's use a different color. Yeah, pink is fine. P equals the principal, which is just saying it's the starting amount. R is the interest rate as a decimal. T is, well, let's start with N. N is the number of times compounded per year. And so if N, for example, it says annually, that means it's once per year. Semi-annually would be twice per year, so N would be 2. Quarterly would be 4 times a year, so N would be 4. And then finally, T equals the number of years, the number of time periods. In this case, it's years. I'll just say number of years. And that's how that works. So let's put that over here. And let's see what we have. So P is going to equal 345. And I'm just going to copy the rest of this. Okay, so what I just did is I just wrote it out and I replaced all of the values with what I have. So P is 345, R is 0.11, N is 1, and T is 3. So I just plug those values in. And that's going to give me that 345 times, I'm going to simplify this in here a little bit, 1.11 cubed. And what's 1.11, whoops, I added a dot. Didn't mean to do that. What's 1.11 cubed? Well, it's a good thing I have a calculator, because it turns out that that is 1.367 and change. I guess I could add it, 3.1. And if you multiply those, you get the answer, which is $471.83. And that is the answer for number 7. Okay, And moving on, number 8. Complete the following 2 transformations to result in a final figure. So it says rotate 180 degrees. How do you rotate this figure? Please pause the video or wait for the explanation. Thank you. Okay, let's have a look. So we're gonna take. I really only care about the vertices. I only care about the dots, and I'm gonna do the rotation. So rotating this, if you have a patty paper, this is much simpler. You can just rotate it, 180 degrees. You can also remember that rotating at 180 degrees flips the signs. So -1, 1 becomes 1, -1. So I can put that dot there. And, some of you have like a good visual sense of how that would work. But that's how this is. And so I'm just going to connect those dots. And so that's the first transformation. Then I'm going to do the second transformation. And it says to reflect it across the x-axis. And I've seen so many of you mess up which one's which axis and reflecting across the wrong one. This is the x-axis, my friends. And so when you reflect it across this axis, you're going across this one. So if you're 1 away, then you go 1 over, and you're there. Again, 1 away, 1 over, and you're there. And then we have the green one. And so that one is 4 below, so it goes 4 above. So that one's right there. And that will be our answer. So I make it yellow just so you know that, hey, we're done. And this is it. Now we're on to number 9. Again, pause the video, try to do it yourself, and see what you get. So, which angle is corresponding? Corresponding means same location, different intersection. So angle X is here in the bottom right. So that means we're looking for the bottom right angle on the other intersection. And so that would be angle V. What is the measure of angle V? Well, there's only 2 angles, a big one and a little one. Anytime you have these parallel lines with the transversal, there's only an obtuse angle and an acute angle. And the obtuse angles are all the same, and the acute angles are all the same. So if we know that the obtuse angles, the big angles are 111, that means that angle V as a big angle is also 111. And angle Z is a linear pair with 111, right? They form a line. And a line is 180 degrees. And if we already know that one of them is 111, then Z has to supplement that. And so they add up to 180. So I just do 180 minus 111, and that turns out to be 69. For this last one, we have our Pythagorean theorem. And the way it goes is that you square both of the legs. The sides that are not the hypotenuse are called legs. I know they're not the hypotenuse because they're not opposite the 90-degree angle. If you look here, is the 90-degree angle, which tells you that this right here is the hypotenuse. And so we're going to call that C. And so this equals C squared. And that's the Pythagorean theorem. And that's what it is. Squared just means multiply by itself. So 5 times 5 is 25. And 12 times 12 is 144. And that's going to add up to equal C squared. And of course, 25 plus 144, that is 169. And so 169 equals C squared. And now, in order to undo the square, you have to square root. And if you square root both sides, you square root this side, you square root this side. What's the square root of 169? That's 13. So 13 equals C. And so the answer is 13. I hope that was helpful. I hope that you gained something from that, and I hope you can get ready for the test. Please like, share, and subscribe. Buy my merch.